And who were the people that were carrying out the looting?
Yaona wengi wao walikuwa wa Kalenjin na ndio walikuwa wakipora pia, wakimpa wale matajiri wa Kalenjin hivi vitu, hivi bidhaa, na zingine wakibeba kwao wenyewe. Zile kichache wanabeba wenyewe, zile kubwa wanauza kwa magari hapo hapo tu, na wanarudi tena kupora zingine.
Your Honour, I have one question in which I will need to ask in private session, if I may.
We will go to private session, but when the witness spoke about your last line of inquiry, clarification, I heard the word askari used, not from the interpretation, but from the witness testifying in Kiswahili. The word askari, what does that mean? Do we know?
And put that to the witness in context. Witness, you used the word askari in your answer just before. Can you explain what askari means?
Yaona askari inamaanisha polisi. Polisi ambao walikuwa wakitoka katika kituo cha polisi cha Nandi Hills.
Thank you. We will now go into private session for your one question you said. Okay.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
Ms. Wise, when did you say you'll be rounding up your examination in chief?
I think if I can have another 20 minutes, I should be done.
Thank you.
One last question to finish up the Nandi Hills line of questioning. Witness, just to get some idea of time, can you remember how long after the election results that you went to Nandi Hills town?
Nikumbuka ilikuwa baada ya kati ya siku 2-3 hapo katikati. Haikuzidi siku 4. Tuseme kati ya siku 2 hadi 4 hapa katikati. Siwezi kukumbuka kabisa ilikuwa wakati gani.
Witness, do you know if it was before or after New Year?
Yaona ilikuwa baada ya sherehe ya mwaka mpya.
Witness, you said that you left Nandi Hills and went home. Did you stay there?
Yaona
And mindful that we're in public session and using the PIS, where did you go after you left home?
Nilienda katika karatasi yangu namba 8.
And witness, did you stay at location number 8?
Yaona nilipeleka familia kwa awamu 2. Nilipeleka ya kwanza watoto, tena nikarudi wengine, kwa maana sikuwa na uwezo kuwapeleka safari moja.
And the second time you returned to your home, using again the PIS if you need to, which road did you take?
Yaona nikitoka Nandi Hills nikirudi kule nilikuwa nikikaa, nilichukua barabara namba 3 kwa karatasi yangu. Nilipita sehemu namba 3 kwa karatasi yangu.
And the second time you took that trip, witness, did you see anything?
Samahani kidogo Yaona. Hiyo swali nimejibu ya kwanza. Ni swali lilikuwa nikitoka Nandi Hills ama ni swali kitoka kule nilikuwa nikiishi, nikienda kule nilisema namba 8. Tafadhali, ili niweke sawa.
Witness, when you went from location 8 to location to home, using the road that you have pointed to on the PIS the second time, did you encounter anything?
Yaona bado nimekanganyikiwa kidogo, manake namba 8 ni kule nilitoka nyumbani kabisa. Na nikitoka Nandi nilikuwa nakuja namba 1. Sasa ile barabara nilisema nilitumia ilikuwa namba 3. Sorry, ilikuwa namba
On your journey, witness, along that road number 3, did you see anything on that road?
Ndiyo Yohana, wakati nilikuwa nimepeleka watoto mara ya kwanza namba 8, nikirudi nilikuta barabara imewashwa moto, imewekwa vizuizi na watu wanangoja hapo. Yani unatembea kipindi fulani unapata kizuizi na moto, unapata kizuizi na moto na watu.
And who were the people at these roadblocks?
Yaona walikuwa vijana wa Kikalenjin.
And what were they doing?
Yaona sikujua kile walikuwa wakifanya, lakini wakati nilipita hapo niliulizwa naenda wapi, nafanya nini, na maswali kama hayo ndio mimi niliulizwa. Na kwa bahati mzuri wengine walikuwa wamenifahamu, wakasema oh, wetu pita. Lakini kwa wale ambao niliona akiongea na wao vijana wa Kalenjin kidogo, na wakamfungulia njia ya akapita na gari yake. Na tena haikuwa mara moja tu, hata alikuwa anaenda huko na rudi pande hii. Peke yake gari yake ndiko natembea ile njia.
Witness, did he get out of his car?
Yaona alikuwa anazungumza akiwa amekaa ndani ya gari, akitoa nje kwa dirisha, akizungumza na wao, akitoa kichwa nje kwa dirisha.
Witness, how far away from Mr. Chirambos were you at this time?
Ilikuwa kama mita 15 hivi.
What type of vehicle was Mr. Chirambos in?
Yaona alikuwa akiendesha gari aina ya Prado, Pajero light blue. Lakini namba plate yake yaona alikuwa imepakwa matope, haikuwa inasomeka.
Your Honour, my transcript has stopped. I'm not sure if that's the same for everybody else in the courtroom. It stopped at Prado.
I have the same problem. But we can continue. There was life in the courtroom before real-time transcripts, so let's keep going.
Witness, just to clarify, was it a Prado or a Pajero? Or, if you know.
Pajero aina ya Pajero, mimi nafikiri Pajero ndio Prado, lakini yenyewe imeandikwa Pajero, rangi yake ilikuwa light blue.
Witness, had you seen Mr. Trambos in that same car before?
Ndio yaona, hiyo ndio ilikuwa gari yake tangu siku nyingi tu.
Witness, after you passed through these roadblocks, did you get to location 1?
Ndio yaona.
Your Honour, I have a couple of questions which need to be asked in private session, if I may.
We will go to private session. But before we do, witness, you, just so we understand clearly on the record what you're saying. Occasionally you said, use the expression where we originally came from. I believe you said that when the lawyer was asking you whether you stayed or left Nandi Hills after the election results, and you said you'd taken your family to the place where you originally came from. Would it be the case that we are talking about the place listed as number 8? That's where you originally came from, is that it? Can you look at the document?
Yaona.
Is that where you came from originally? That's what you mean, number 8?
Yeah, yaona.
Are you saying, so that's a different province? We don't need to mention it now.
Yeah.
A different province of Kenya, is that it?
Ndio yaona. Hapo ndio mahali yangu ya kuzaliwa.
All right. Thank you.
If we could just move into private session, if that's possible, Your Honour, just for 2 questions, I'd be most grateful.
We will go into private session for a brief moment and come back out.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
And I can see that the live relay has come back. Live transcript.
Witness, did you leave, did you stay in location 1?
La, Your Honor. Niliporudi kuchukua watoto nilirudi mara moja. Sikubaki hapo tena.
Witness, where did you go?
Namba 8.
Did you ever go to number 1?
Your Honor, sijawahi kurudi.
Witness, what became may have had in location number 1?
Your Honor, vitu vyangu vile vilikuwa kwa nyumba, vile vilikuwa shambani, vyote viliporwa na sikuweza kurudi kudai ama kuuliza mtu.
Witness, how did you know all your goods had been pillaged?
Your Honor, kuna watu ambao wengine walirudi huko. Wao ndio walileta habari, huyu yako, hakuna chako huko. Vitu vyako vyote vilienda.
And finally, witness, and mindful that we're in public session, but how have the events of 2007, 2008 post-election violence affected you personally?
Your Honor, haya maneno yameniathiri sana. Mimi binafsi, kifamilia na kijamii. Yamenifanya nimekuwa mkimbizi katika nchi yangu. Yamenifanya na amani nchi yangu. Yamenirudisha nyuma kiwango ambacho nilikuwa nimetoka miaka mingi. Na yamenifanya hata watoto wangu kupata elimu vizuri na kwa tabu. Naishi maisha ya kuhofia, sijui kesho itakuwaje, sijui kesho itakuwaje. Watu wengi niliona kama rafiki zangu, siku hizi nikiona karibu kila mtu na mshuku tu labda. Kwa hivyo imeniathiri sana kimaisha. Na imenifanya mara mingi nikikumbuka nasikia roho yangu inajaa huzuni sana.
Your Honour, that concludes the prosecution's examination in chief. I just have one small minor housekeeping matter to take care of, and that's the photo, to tender the photo 00830342.
Mr. Hooper, any objection?
No objection, Your Honour, thank you.
Ms. Coates?
Similarly to us.
No objection.
Thank you, Your Honour.
The photo is accepted into the record as the next in the prosecution exhibit.
Le document KEN OTP 00830342 confidentiel se verra attribuer la cote EVD T OTP 00041 et sera aussi connu sous le nom pièce de l'accusation numéro 41.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wise, that concludes your examination in chief. Witness, the prosecutor has finished asking you questions. It is now for the other lawyers in the courtroom. First of all, there is a matter of the request made by Mr. Nderi to ask you questions on behalf of, in your capacity as a victim as well. He had requested that he be allowed to ask you some questions. The procedure is that we would find out from him whether there's a need to ask a question after the prosecution's own examination that covered areas. We will now take submissions from the lawyers, so bear with us and sit there for a moment. Mr. Nderi.
Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors. Very briefly, in the interest of time, I would say that, yes, a good number of questions that I would have covered have already been covered, but there is still an issue with regard to the perspective that I would want to bring in connection with the nature of the harm suffered, and in particular, we're talking here about the forcible displacement. So I do not intend to be too long, but I would very, very kindly request that I be given the opportunity further to my application dated 3rd January 2014.
How long are you thinking? Let's begin with that. You said you don't intend to be too long. I want to first of all ask how long you anticipate before we go. I ask you questions about the substance of questioning.
Mr. President, Your Honors, I do not anticipate that I will be longer than the rest of this afternoon. So I see that we have about 35 minutes. I would try as much as possible to not ask questions that have already been put to the witness. The only problem being, Your Honors, as you might well appreciate, that sometimes it is important to ask questions that have been asked before for the purpose of introducing the issue that I would want to raise. But then I would want to be as short as possible with regard to those introductory questions.
When you say perspective, is the understanding that the facts themselves have been put in or addressed by the prosecution, but you just want to give perspective on those facts? What I mean is the fact of victimhood. The prosecutor, Ms. Wise, has asked questions on those, but you just want to add some texture. Is that it?
Yes, Your Honors, it is more of texture, but then a texture does also come in with certain facts which may not have come out on account of the fact that the questions that were being asked by the prosecutor were being asked from the perspective of criminality rather than from the perspective of harm suffered. So there is a distinction there that I would want to bring in the questions.
Just to put things in context as well, Mr. Coet, I take it you will not have questions for this witness, do you?
Yes, Your Honor, indeed, as things stand now, we are unlikely to cross-examine the witness.
You are unlikely.
Unlikely, yes.
Thank you.
But I would rather reserve it for until the end of cross-examination of Mr. Hooper.
To see what comes out, if anything, all right, of interest to you. Mr. Hooper, how much time are we looking at for your cross-examination? As things stand, assuming that nothing...
To use much of the next half hour for some general matters, I should hope I could conclude tomorrow.
But if you started tomorrow, you will be able to conclude.
Then I wouldn't be willing to give a guarantee of finishing tomorrow. But I wouldn't go very much into the next day.
What's today, sorry? Is today Wednesday or Thursday?
Today's Wednesday, so I'd be going into Friday morning at the very most.
So what we're looking at then is if you started your cross-examination tomorrow morning, you will be finishing by Friday.
Oh, yes.
Good.
I'm quite happy to start it this afternoon, and I can finish it possibly tomorrow.
I can understand the enthusiasm to get going, but...
Yes, I thought that might tempt her, even Mr. Ruto.
Oh, right, okay, let's... Ms. Ruto, the Chamber will grant you leave to ask questions. We hope you don't take the rest of the afternoon doing that. We will be watching the questions in light of the indication you've given, as well as the information we've already received from the prosecutor's examination-in-chief that also addresses harm. So you may start.
I thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors.
We're in open session now. It would be good if you can address your questions in open, but of course, the need for protection of the witness's identity remains cardinal one.
Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honors. Mr. Witness, would you please confirm that you applied to be registered and were accepted as a victim participating in these proceedings?
Your Honor.
Isn't there to questions like that, if they're not an issue, I think that's what happened, and the defense would not be disputing it, we can dispense with it by you directly leading that sort of answer onto the record, instead of asking a question, waiting for interpretation, witness answering, and interpretation coming back. So let's see if we can cut out things that we don't need to ask questions about.
Much appreciated. Mr. Witness, just to take you back very slightly, you informed the court that you were residing at location 1 immediately before the post-election violence, and round about what time or what period did you stop residing at location 1?
Don't we have that information already?
Mr. President, the purpose is to introduce the next set of questions.
Yes, we can say we know that if we already have the answer from the previous exercise, we can indicate we know that and then move off to what you want to ask, rather than reintroducing the discussion as if it is a whole fresh subject area. And we also, I do recall, gave a caution that we do not want to pinpoint that sort of information in the open session. I think it's what reminded me that we may have covered it. Unless I'm mistaken.
Mr. President, you're not mistaken, but at the same time, I think it is important that certain things do go out into a public session.
All right, what I'm saying is this. We have on record the witness's testimony as to when he stopped residing at location 1. So we don't need to ask him again, when did you stop residing at location 1?
Very well. Mr. Witness, I will take you to the 3rd page of your PIS, and under the heading Personal Background, I would want you to confirm that the information contained in the 2nd bullet there is correct. That is, with regard to your marital status and whether or not you have children, and if you do, how many. Just state whether that is correct or not.
Naona sina hiyo daftari hapa.
Could the court officer kindly provide the PIS to the witness?
Maître Nderitu, s'agit-il de votre PIS ou du PIS de l'accusation?
De l'accusation.
Le témoin a une version.
La 3e page, s'il vous plaît. Mr. Witness,
witness, are you with me? All right, if you look at the page number 3 of that document that has confidential marked on it, page 3, you will see under the subheading personal background, there's a bullet that shows the date of birth, your date of birth. And the second bullet indicates your marital status as well as the number of children you have. The lawyer's question is that the information indicated here about your marital status and the number of children you have, is that information correct?
Ndiyo, ni kweli, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I ask that we go into a private session for a short while.
For how long?
About 5 minutes.
A private session then.
Mr. Witness.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Witness, you testified that you had lived at location 1 for a period of at least about 10 years. That is correct?
Ndiyo, Your Honor.
And so far as you recall, how many of your children were born at that location, or were born when you were living at that location?
Don't tell us which children, just how many. We know the number you've indicated.
Your Honor, nilikuja hapo na watoto wangu, mtoto mdogo sana, akiwa na umri mdogo, hata kabla hajaanza kutambaa, akiwa na umri wa mwaka tu.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, during your evidence in chief, you stated that at the meeting in location 2, Mr. Chirambos talked about 2 tribes, and that he said that if the ODM won the election, then the Kalenjin would be free to do what they wanted to do, and that they would take back the land which had been bought by the Luya. You remember that?
Mr. Ruto, can you hold that question? Let's clear up the last answer, please. Witness, the lawyer asked you how many of your children were born in location 1, and you said when you got there, your youngest one was not even crawling or something like that. Is it the case that none of your children, the number we've seen on the sheet, that none of them was born at location 1.
Ndio, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Ruto.
Thank you. Mr. Witness, I'll take the other question again. And you had said that at the meeting at location 2, Mr. Cherambos talked about 2 tribes, and that he said that if the ODM won the election, then the Kalenjin would be free to do what they wanted to do, and that they would take back the land which had been bought by the Luya. Do you recall having said that?
Ndio, Your Honor.
And Mr. Witness, do you recall saying that at another rally, it was said that the Kalenjin should vote in massive numbers so that once the ODM took power, they would uproot the tree stumps and their lands would be given back to their owners?
Ndio, Your Honor.
Mr. Witness, you then, correct me if I'm wrong, went to tie up the issue about the tree stumps with what happened thereafter, and that is you understood that the tree stumps that were being talked about during the election campaign were the Luya and the Kikuyu. Is that correct?
Your Honor, baada ya kuona haya matukio nilikuja kukumbuka kumbe ile visiki ilikuwa inasemekana ni wale makabila mengine ambao wamekuja hapa katika sehemu ya Kalenjin.
Now, Mr. Witness, have you to date been able to return to location 1?
La, Your Honor.
Mr. Witness, why have you not been able to return there?
Your Honor, kulingana na yale niliona na yale matokeo yalikuwa, nilihofia sana usalama wangu tangu siku hiyo.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, you told the court that you moved your family to location 8. Now, my question to you, sorry, and that you moved the family in 2 trips. My question to you first is, how many of your family members did you move in the first trip to location 8?
Then let's take that answer in private session. We'll go to private session.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
Witness, we're now back in the open session. The reason why we went into private session for you to give the answer about how many family members moved with you was that that sort of information might have been too particular, that some people might be able to connect your real identity to who's testifying. Now we're back in public session. Keep in mind the need to not put identifying information in your answers. Mr. Nderitu, you can take that question again.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The last one.
Mr. Witness, what was your state of mind when you had to leave part of your family at location 8?
Naona nilikuwa nahofia sana hali ya maisha ya watoto wangu ambao wamebaki nyuma. Niende tu, hata kama mambo ni mbaya, nikiuawa nitauawa na watoto wangu huko. Lakini sipouawa nitafaulu kuwalete pande hii. Hiyo ndio neno nilikuwa nayo ndani ya roho yangu. Jamii yangu, wazazi walikataza usiende, nikasema nitaenda, kama watoto wangu wanakufa tutakufa nao huko. Na nikifaulu naenda tukuja nao. Ndio kwa mawazo yangu.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. What was the difference?
You just have 5 more minutes.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Witness, what was the difference in time between when you made the first trip and when you made the second trip?
Tofauti yaona haikuwa muda mrefu, ni kupeleka na kupanga kurudi. Isipokuwa tofauti ilipatikana njiani. Sasa nimekuta vizuizi na vijana ambao wanalinda, na nikienda hawakuwa wameweka hiyo vizuizi mara ya kwanza. Hiyo ndio tofauti niliona tu.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. If you could be a bit more specific, was it the same day? Was it a day apart, 2 days apart, or what kind of period?
Yaona haikupita wakati. Nilipeleka tu wale wa kwanza kuweka nyumbani. Kesho yake asubuhi ninapanga safari ya kurudi. Najaribu kukatazwa na wazazi, lakini sikuona ilikuwa muhimu. Nikasema siwezi waacha wale sijui hali yao, mimi ndio mtu baba yao, nao ni watoto. Okoe wakuja huku kama Mungu anapenda.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now, I want you to how you felt when, on your second trip, as you say, you found several roadblocks and fires as you went to pick your other family members. How you felt in relation to the warning that your parents had given you not to go back to location one.
Naona ilikuwa wakati wangu mgumu sana katika maisha. Manake hakuna chombo yoyote ya usafiri ilikuwa natembea, alafu baadaye nakuta vizuizi njiani ambavyo vilikuwa hatari. Alafu tena ndani ya moyo wangu nilikuwa nawaza wale watoto niliwacha huko, sijui wako hai ama wako vipi. Na yote kwa yote nilipiga moyo konde, nikasema nitafika tu. Kama Mungu amependa, siwezi kukubali wakufe huko peke yao. Tutakufa na wao, na Mungu akipenda nitawaleta nyumbani. Hiyo ndio mambo ilikuwa ndani ya roho yangu nikienda kuwaleta watoto.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Mr. President, I will just take perhaps another 2 or 3 minutes, and I should be done. With your leave. Thank you. Mr. Witness, you talked about farm produce that you had on your farms that you had rented. Did you manage to recover any of this produce when you left location 1?
Na sikuchukua chochote.
Mr. Witness, what about household effects? Did you manage to go with you for household goods?
Yaona sikukuwa na wa hali ya chombo cha safari, na tena hali nilikuwa nayo kwa wakati huo ilikuwa kuokoa tu maisha ya watu wangu, nikidhania baadaye ndio.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. And the children, did they continue after the violence to attend the same schools that they were attending?
La, yaona watoto wangu wamepata shida sana katika hali yao ya masomo mpaka sasa. Wakienda shule sehemu mpya, wanaanza upya, na pengine mwaka huko katikati. Baadaye hali inakuwa ngumu ya maisha, kukimu familia mahali hauna kitu, na siwezi kutoka vile ama nimerudi mahali 0 kabisa. Watoto wangu wamekuwa na shida, hata mimi mwenyewe tumekuwa na shida sana.
Mr. President, Your Honors, that is all for this witness. Thank you.
And we will, thank you very much, Mr. Ndorito. We'll leave it there for the day, and we will adjourn now and reconvene tomorrow at 9:30. And Mr. Hooper, you will start then. Thank you. The court will rise first, the blinds down to...
Just one matter in the absence of the witness. Can I raise, take a matter of a minute or two only?
Yes, we will let the witness out of the courtroom first. The blinds will come down